Hi, I'm Chris Oldham. This is story time. Okay, didn't know what else to do, so I figured I'd do story time. And Miss Lady inspired me with one of her little short videos. The many times I've been out with my grandpa and outdoors when I was a kid. I'll tell you about the time we went on spring break camp at Lake DeGray. Grandpa worked for Washita School District 26 years, and for the state of Arkansas, he was a custodian and a bus driver about 10 or 15. He loved it. Absolutely loved his job. They loved him, and he was real good at it. Back in the day, he was right on top of things. Well, they give him 2 weeks off. Everybody else would get summer off. The teachers, the students, faculty. Grandpa, he got 2 weeks off every year, and he could take him anytime he wanted. So he'd take him spring break for the bass. He'd take him a second week in November for deer season. He'd do deer camp. He always had deer in the freezer, and he always had fish growing up. One of the times I stayed with him that year, for a year, I went to school down in my first grade. So I'm 7 years old. I'm a little chowderhead. My nickname was Underfoot. A lot of times, my granny named me that for several, obvious reasons. But we went out there to DeGray, and Grandpa, he had it. I thought it was the coolest thing. So good, I loved it. I loved him so much, man. He had the truck, then he had the camper, and he's towing the bass boat on the back. That was great. I've seen this whole setup down the highway before. It awesome. No, your kid blows you away. Well, we got down to Lake DeGray and we got us a camp spot. I can't remember exactly where we camped. One of the little accesses there on the left down Highway 7. Anyway, we got parked and set up, no big deal, and then we started a little fire. We roasted marshmallows. It was pretty cool. Went to bed and all that stuff. Well, the next morning we got up right before the sun comes up. It was still dark out, and we all gathered up and got everything ready and took the boat out to the landing and all that jazz. And we're out there. Seemed like halfway across that lake. We get to this spot. Now, he had this boat that was one of them it was a river bottom bass boat from the Washita boat plant right next to his property. They do several trades in and out with bass boats and him and property over there, because he started out with 22 acres, and I think he ended up with about 8 after it was all before he died. Well, anyway, he had the coolest boat set up. It didn't have a steering wheel, and it wasn't one. It was a 2-seater big bass boat back in the 70s, 78, 79. It was the summer of 79. But anyway, it had this lever on it. I thought that was the coolest thing ever. He rode around and it got him up to about 35, which is plenty fast on a bass boat. It feels like you're going 80, especially when you're a knot-headed kid like me. We got out there and we're fishing. We get set up. My granny's showing me how to take a jig. He said there's black jigs and these pork worm or pork. Is a what a worm? This little pork is what it was. It was supposed to be like a frog or something. It had little fins on the back, but you put this thing on the hook with the jig. You throw it and let it hit the bottom, and then you reel it up 1, 2, 3, and then you just sit there, and you wait for that fish to hit it. You'll feel him. I got a nibble or two, but I never caught the fish that day. For one good reason. Well, what had happened was we're fishing along, and I go to casting it, and I hooked my grandpa. He got it unhooked, whoop-de-doo, all that stuff, and Granny, boy, land sakes, alive, better not do this. Boy, said, watch what you're doing with that hook, boy. Anyway, I'm casting several times, and then next thing you know, I reach back, and I hooked him again, got him in the leg. Didn't hurt him, but he pulled it out of his leg, and it took a minute, got the needle nose out. Ripped my hook, so I'm going to catch that anyway. He said, boy, you hook me one more time, you are going in that lake. And so we're fishing. Yep. I reared back now. When it did, about 12 foot in front of me, his hat lands in the lake. I turned and looked at him. He looked at me, and he whooped back around and cased it out. Started just reeling, shaking his head, and I reeled it back in real fast as I could. And I handed it to him, and then he grabbed it. And then I picked my pole up. I didn't say a word, man. I cased it out. When I started reeling in, he does this while I'm not looking, and grabs me right in the seat of the drawers, and yip, kadoosh! In the water I go. Before I learned how to swim, we're in the deepest part of the lake. I got a life jacket on, and they're laughing. I'm wet, and I'm just livid. He grabbed me. I was a little chunky pork I was a bigger chunky pork thing, man. Picks me up with one hand, grabs me by the other, does this, and then hits me down in my seat and said, I told you I was putting you in that lake. You hooked me again. And then we left. And I think he caught 3 and she caught 1 that time. We ate. And I'm sure they told that over the years. I told it a couple times. I think I remember. But I vividly remember that from when I was little. Yet another adventure of the Christopher Chronicles or something, you know. They called me Christopher growing up. Underfoot. Many times. Boy, you get out of there. One time, I threw a fit at my granny. And she always kept an ice cold something to drink. One day she just kadoosh right at me, and I just... And she goes, you look thirsty and needed a drink of water. So I don't know. I figure, boy, you ever get a runaway screaming kid, man, let's got water on them. It works for dogs when they're hooked up and can't get undone. I got a dog hooked through a fence one time, and it wasn't pretty, but somebody knew. Stepdad, I think, knew how to get them apart, and pretty quick. Big old pitcher of ice water. Well, that's story time this time. No frills, no fun, just sitting back chilling at the house. Had to put something up. Feeling pretty good. It got later than I thought it would. Alright, as always, y'all have fun. Stay positive. Stay humble. And get true to your roots. Stay true to your roots. Can't go wrong.